Hey everyone, welcome to the channel and another review. I just got back from seeing Umma at the theater. I actually saw a double feature today. This followed after the outfit. So if you haven't already checked out that video, be sure to check out my review for the outfit. But here we are going to talk about Umma. And yeah, with that we'll just jump right on in with the synopsis. So in this movie, Amanda and her daughter live a quiet life on an American farm, but when the remains of her estranged mother arrive from Korea, Amanda becomes haunted by the fear of turning into her own mother. So my background and anticipation coming into this movie, I've seen a trailer for this in front of movies recently, but I'm not a huge horror fan, so generally speaking, I'm not very interested in horror films, and it takes something interesting from the trailer to get me interested in it. Which the trailer didn't really do anything for me. I thought it looked pretty generic. So, I mean, it was a new movie though that came out, so I figured I'd go check it out, even though I wasn't really expecting much or necessarily looking forward to it. But sometimes, that's not a bad thing. Going in with low expectations to any movie generally, I think, improves your viewing experience because, either it's better than your expectations or it's less likely to be worse than your expectations. But anyway, with that, let's jump on in and talk about what I thought. So for this movie, we'll start off with the good. There are just a few. Unfortunately, there aren't more. But the first thing I thought was the cinematography was well done. As I'm kind of noticing more with horror films, I feel like I've said this about several of the horror films that have come out this year. I appreciate the long takes, which I think is a necessity for horror films, and I see how it helps kind of set the scene, and you don't know what you having it just be a single take where you're not cutting makes you more aware of the parts that you're not seeing, and you're like, just move the camera a little bit over, but it's a single take, so you can't really. And so I think that's very effective, and with a single take scene. And I noticed at least one. I think there were a few spots that happened in this movie. So I thought the cinematography was good, and I really liked the lighting. Again, it had I think it had a similar lighting to Scream, where it was very natural looking, and that allows for kind of accents with the shadows and that sort of thing. And I thought it just was a nice looking film. Next, I thought the acting was good. Nothing like Oscar caliber, but I thought both the mom and the daughter played their parts well. Same with the other couple main characters, the store owner and his niece, I think it is. But the main two I thought did a good job. And then also in the beginning of the film, there were a couple nice songs where, as a fan of soundtracks, that's something that I'm pay attention to. But there was a mixture of piano and I think violin, some sort of string, but I think it was violin. And so it had just kind of like a peaceful feel for the first. I only noticed those in the first bit though. I didn't notice it at all for the rest of the film. So it was like the first maybe third that had some of that sprinkled into the soundtrack. So I liked those, and I'm curious to see if that's available on Amazon Music, if I can listen to that this upcoming week. But the last thing that I really liked was just kind of the general premise from the daughter's point of view. So looking at a character who's been raised by her mom. They live out kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I mean, they still see other people, and she's allowed to go into town, so she's not necessarily a recluse, but she's living in a home where her mom doesn't allow any sort of electricity. So that means no phones, no internet, nothing like that. So she's definitely doesn't have a typical upbringing from the rest of the people her age. And so kind of looking at what that does to her mentally is, I think, a very interesting premise. And that's what I appreciated the most about this movie. I just kind of wish we got a full movie on it instead of it kind of just being the subplot, with the main plot being the mom coming to terms with her own mom now that she's passed away. So I thought, yeah, the subplot, I don't know, that was an interesting with the storyline, I thought, with the daughter, and a good character study. Like, yeah, how would that impact somebody where the only person you know is your mom, and she's kind of crazy, and Yeah, it's that part I really liked, but that's about it though for what I liked. Unfortunately, it was a pretty generic film. I thought the it really didn't need to be a horror film in my opinion. I thought all the stuff that was added in that were horror elements were completely unnecessary, especially since they didn't add to the part of the movie that I found interesting, which was this, yeah, basically character study of the daughter. Like that's the part that I found interesting. So anytime we did any of the horror stuff, like it was, dark at night and you have all your suspenseful scenes, like that just took time away from diving a bit deeper into the part that I was interested in. And then I also felt that the scares, or like the jump scares and the tension and suspense that was there, it was very cheap horror in my opinion. It was all in the head of the daughter and the mom. So none of it was real. So in that way, I feel like it comes across very cheap. Anytime they scare you, it's like, well, of course, if you can just play with, like, if you're going to show me somebody going delusional and what they're seeing and scare me that way, yeah, you'll scare me. You'll get me to jump a little bit in my seat because you can have anything happen if it's all inside somebody's head. There's nothing that gets ruled out. So I thought that, in my opinion, just comes across as a very cheap way to do horror. Kind of like cheap as far as like it's like a cop out. Like it's not really horror because it's all inside of her head. So it's, I don't know. I think it didn't really need to be a horror film, and the horror parts that were there I thought were not very good. So yeah, I think that's what really limited the movie, in my opinion. I thought there were some good elements there, but the fact that at the end of the day it was a horror film and that part of it I didn't find interesting just left me kind of eh. So this is a movie that I think it's an okay movie. There's some good elements to it, but overall I would give it a rating of a C, and it's not one that I would recommend necessarily. I mean, it's not a bad film, so if you think it's a movie that you're interested in, I wouldn't say don't go see it. I think yeah, it's fine enough, but as not being like, as I'm not a horror fan and it wasn't all that good of a horror film in my opinion, it just isn't. It's not really a movie for me. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's a horror film. I left kind of just meh, and yeah, it's unfortunately not one that I can recommend. So that does it for my review for Umma. And if you've seen the movie, be sure to let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, if you've enjoyed this review, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe so you don't miss my next review. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.